everybody, hello and welcome to Gilmore's Glorious Gossip, a show dedicated to Critical Role over on the Geek and Sundry Twitch channel. Welcome to everyone joining us live, and don't worry if you can't stay, we are posting this on Monday as we always do. Continuous thanks to Akuma Mika at EmmaFrost91 for our logo. And this week we are featuring a large number of artists. So many thanks to everybody who submitted and gave permission for us to use their art. The current art that you're seeing is from Jebmin, Jebminn, over on Tumblr, and was brought to our attention by her sibling Jillian at Gilly's a Goldfish, Gillys Agoldfish. So many thanks to Jillian for bringing this to our attention. Later you'll be seeing pieces from, and please don't kill me for getting the names wrong if I do, Heiko Jung at Shoobdidoo, Shoobdidoo, Nina at NLN4V, another piece by hashtag CritterArrow at Miss Arrow Runner, John Ware at Ozai75, Andy Lee at Call of the Deep, and finally a piece by Lottie at Bag of Milky Way. So hopefully you guys are enjoying all the art as much as we are. We love getting this art, so please keep it up. If you'd like your art featured here, please let any of the show's hosts know via Twitter, and we'll do our best to get it on the show. Or you can contact us via the official Twitter account at Gilmore_gossip. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you can catch us each and every week. I'm Akiva, found on Twitter at AkivaDavid, AKIVADAPHYDD. And joining me today is my excellent friend. Go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us, what do you look for most in a game, either to watch or play in? And remember, DMs are playing the game as well.
Of course we are. We're definitely playing the game. Hi guys, I'm Kitten, also known as Cat, Kitten Smitten G on Twitter. What do I look for most in a game? I would have to say players who pay attention. Players who are actually interested in playing the game. I've played in groups where they're just kind of there to roll dice and just bum ass around and not actually contribute to the game and build a story. So yeah, I think that's the kind of game I look for.
Oh, those are always fun when the players are actually, get into it.
Yeah, yeah.
For me, it's more about the story. I mean, don't get me wrong. Anytime that the players engage, whether it is just I want to show up and roll dice and do a dungeon crawl, because those could be fun too. But
sure,
for me, what keeps me coming back to a game is the story. So
yes,
I'm not the best storyteller out there, but I try.
Well, that's why you have all of your players to do that with you. I always say that it's always best when everyone tells a story together. Shouldn't always just be on the DM.
Indeed. Actually, and I don't remember which convention it was. It might have even been the one last week, for all my memory serves me at the moment. Which, by the way, I'll ask in just a second about your experiences there. But as Matt said, at a convention, one of the biggest draws of D&D is the communal storytelling.
Yes.
And
100%.
Prior to Dungeons and Dragons, not just its invention but its resurgence in recent years, the world was really starting to lose that. And it really makes me happy to see D&D filling that slot. So, but, Kat, last week you weren't able to join us because you were at a convention there in Australia.
I was. Yeah, so we went to the Haven Expo in Mackay, and it was fantastic. It was really good. I got to meet Matt and Marisha in person. Everyone was saying, oh, they're really beautiful people, they're really lovely, and I thought, okay, well, they're probably going to be nice, but I didn't expect that level of nice. It was when I went up to get my signatures with them, they actually, because we were standing in line for so long and I knew they were trying to wrap it up so they could go to the next, I think they had like a photo shoot afterwards. Mm-hmm. And I thought, oh, I'm just going to have to get my signatures quick and then move on, so I was ready to just grab them and go. But they kind of stopped and started a conversation with me and started to talk to me, and they were just so easy to talk to. It was kind of a little, I was surprised, and as I walked away from the table, I think I was in shock. I was kind of walking away from the table going, oh wow, they were really just nice people, and I just had a conversation, like a couple of minutes long conversation with Matt and Marisha Ray. Like Matt Mercer and Marisha Ray. I'm just, wow, that was crazy.
So, unfortunately, I haven't been able to talk to a lot of critters about their convention experience when it comes to the cast Critical Role. But, I figured they were genuinely nice people from what I've read on their Twitter. But to hear your experience, we'll have to get together offline and have a more in-depth conversations.
Yes, I have some good stories. Well, even so, after the convention, after the expo, they actually came out to the pub, to a local pub, and we're talking at like 12:30 in the morning. So they've been at this expo all day and doing panels and photo shoots and signings. And so I'm like, no way are they going to come to a pub in this. Mackay's okay, but it's not a go-to destination in Australia. Mm. It's like one of those places that you're like, yeah, it exists, but you don't need to visit it. And so the pubs weren't that amazing, and I thought, why would they come out? But they did. They actually, after all of that, came out to a pub and sat down and had drinks with critters and just talked to them. And
awesome.
And they looked so fresh. They looked like they were not like jet lagged. I hadn't just spent an entire day at an expo with people like begging for their attention, like pulling them every which way. They were, and Matt was like walking in between tables and saying hello to everybody, and yeah, amazing. So if you guys ever do get a chance to meet them, do it.
Well, I will say that for the critters going to Gen Con next month, Matt is one of the guests there at Gen Con. Kalia and I are trying to get volunteer slots running some of the D&D games. And if we can, there's a chance that we'll be able to meet Matt, at least. No guarantees yet, because we haven't heard back on whether or not we'll be able to volunteer. But we'll find out. So, cross your fingers for us.
I will. I'm crossing fingers and toes.
Thank you.
That'd be amazing.
So, getting into the pre-show announcements, the chosen 3 from the t-shirt contest has been announced. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to find the link on the Geek and Sundry webpage. So I don't have that link, and I don't know what they look like, unfortunately.
The t-shirts?
Yes.
Right. They're pretty good picks. There was some amazing entries. I don't know if you got to see like all of the entries before they...
Oh yes, I did see the full list, and oh wow, they were amazing. The cast on the show was sitting there saying that Hey, we'll pick our favorite 3, and they ended up picking 6, and none of them chose the same shirts.
Yeah.
So,
But no, it's good. Definitely go vote.
indeed. So continuing with the announcements, Ashley forgot to do her Dear Vox Machina again.
That girl's busy, yo.
Yes, understandably so. She wasn't there for the one shot last week because she had flown out to New York because they were supposed to start shooting on Blind Spot, but she was back this last episode because they delayed shooting. And a part of me suspects, are the producers now fans of Critical Role and want to see her there?
I doubt that they would have put an entire show on hold just so that she could do one more episode of Critical Role, but
True.
We were definitely thankful.
Yes, we were. Absolutely. Although it wouldn't surprise me if they spring for upgraded internet for her as well, so maybe they can get her back on Critical Role a little more often. But we'll see. Or at least more reliably. So, according to Becca Music 321, somebody had set some internet bots for the voting process, and so they have canceled the voting until Monday. So if you're watching this on the YouTube channel on Monday, which hopefully by then we'll have the link, they'll have the voting back up. But guys, don't mess up the voting with bots.
That's not really necessary.
I know. This is a shirt to represent the critter community. Let's not be assholes about it.
Yeah. For the MDA charity?
So yes, the MDA charity 2 weeks ago when they did the week-long, or not the week-long, excuse me. They did a week-long, or the donation was open for a week.
Right.
But the MDA charity that they had the 24-hour live stream that ended after we had recorded our last Gilmore's Glorious Gossip. At the end, they had raised over $87,000 for the MDA charity. So thank you, critters, all of you that were able to donate or that just spread the word about the event going on. Team Human all the way.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. And last but not least, the first Force Grey episode will be out next week, meaning this coming Monday. For those of you that are watching via YouTube, there will be a link in the description once the video is released. It might be after Gilmore's Glorious Gossip is released, but I think they're going to try to do it in the morning. I'm not certain on that.
So this is the one that Matt's running?
Yes.
Force Grey?
Yes.
Yes!
The one Matt is running and Ashley is playing in. And there are comedians that are also going to be going. And please forgive me, I don't remember off the top of my head which comedians are playing. But it's the not Thunder King. I mean, that's
Giant? It's the Giant.
Yeah, it's the Giant expansion.
The Giant expansion.
So,
the one with the giants. That'll be good.
Indeed. If you're looking for the confirmation, there is a link in the description to Christopher Perkins' tweet answering the question on when it's going to be started. And there's also a video on the Nerdist.com website as well as the Nerdist YouTube channel, sort of promoting the game coming up. So those videos will be posted to the Nerdist.com website and possibly the Nerdist YouTube channel. So those of you watching on Monday via YouTube, Let us know in the comments below if the link has not been updated in the description. Thank you, Crit Roll Stats, coming through in the clutch. Force Grey, Storm King's Thunder. That's what it was. Thank you much. And I'm sorry if I sound like I'm fanboying over here. We have Crit Roll Stats in the chat.
Hello!
Yes. Okay, yeah. Okay. But yes, back to topic. It will be on the Nerdist YouTube, or Nerdist.com, possibly the Nerdist YouTube channel. And if the link isn't in the description, let us know, and we'll make sure it gets there. Yesenia Hernandez says that Force Grey makes her feel like I'm cheating on Critical Role. Well, not really.
Cross promotion is good.
Yes. It's all about, promoting the inclusivity that is Dungeons and Dragons.
100%. Yeah. I mean, that's how I found Critical Role. I actually watched Titan's Grave, which then made me fall in love with Laura Bailey, which then made me look into what else she was in, and so I found Critical Role, which I already knew existed, but I tried it again. So the more things they're in, the more things they, you watch them in,
Absolutely. So, moving into the comments from the last episode of Gilmore's Glorious Gossip. This week's comments comes from G-Man, who comments, I don't know if the Pathfinder fairies are anything like the Dungeons & Dragons fairies, but I think the alchemy jar is going to be very useful. When I was playing a witch in my group Pathfinder game, we encountered some fairies, and some of their weaknesses were things like honey and milk. So there is a pretty big difference between D&D fairies and Pathfinder fairies. However, their Critical Role is a heavily homebrewed game, and it started as a Pathfinder game. So it's very possible that Matt may pull in some of those elements from Pathfinder.
Yeah, totally.
Although we've met a nymph and a satyr, we're going to have to wait to see what other fey creatures and how the interactions go, as far as all of that. But let us get into the one-shot that we missed, if you don't mind. Don't know if you've seen that yet or not, Kat.
Oh, I so have.
Okay, good.
100%. I got to watch it the day before because we actually flew into Mackay the day of the expo. So we flew in and pretty late to get there. So I got to watch it live as it was happening.
Nice. But yeah, it was a great one-shot by Liam. And granted, it was greatly exaggerated, but it was a good view of, behind the scenes on the voice acting. And by good, I mean, certain elements that, for me at least, being the voice actor nerd that I am, or fanboy that I am, rather, that I've always wondered about. So.
Yeah, it was great. They took to it like fish in water, and started to do like their voice warm-ups, and they did like the little takes of them actually doing the recording. I actually loved that.
Yes.
I love that insight. Yeah. Was kind of unsure as to where he was heading with it all, but when it took off, it took off.
Indeed. I mean, it was a very interesting apocalypse scenario. But the individuals who took part in the game, Sam, Taliesin, Travis, and Laura, were literally playing themselves. Sam ended up being a ranger, Taliesin was a warlock, Travis was a fighter, and Laura was a rogue. Much to our chagrin and Crit Roll Stats' chagrin, unfortunately, their character sheets were not saved, so we don't know their exact stats.
I love how Liam made Sam.
The ranger?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the dog.
That was like perfect karma.
It was, wasn't it? That was just, and then and then he's trying to make this dog useful, but without killing the dog. And at the end, he was like, "I have so much more respect for you now," and I'm like, "Damn straight."
Yep. He still hates Trinket. Don't get him wrong there. But at the
Yes,
same
that's
time,
fair enough.
at the same time, he has more respect for what Laura does.
Yeah.
The game started on the Warner Brothers lot where they were recording, and very quickly just jumped right into the apocalypse. I noticed there were a lot of custom creatures.
Right, yeah.
That Liam was using.
Yeah.
Like, at one point he had himself get torn in half and turned into some creature with all these other Liams crawling out of a dimensional hole. But what was that? Cthulhu that was walking through the WB parking lot?
I have no idea. The whole thing was just so weird and abstract, and just, I was lucky to just keep myself kind of understanding the story of it all. Which
Yeah.
it wasn't a bad thing. It was just, it was so.
No, I know what you mean. Because it was just so surreal.
Surreal. 100%. That's a good word.
Yes, very surreal. But because Ashley was not at that actual game, at one point they made a reference to Ashley being off, still recording Blind Spot. I think he said like episode 30 or season 37 or something, or maybe it was just season 7.
Yeah, I think because the whole concept was that they were in the future after some big apocalyptic event, and so of course she'd be up to that many seasons because it's a popular show and she's awesome.
Yes.
That was just a given.
Yesenia is excuse me, my draconic is rearing its scaly head.
It's kicking in.
Yes. Yesenia Hernandez says in the chat, Liam mentioned Cthulhu later in the Q&A, so I think so. That's actually where I'm getting the primary idea that it was Cthulhu. The imagery that he used in the game also was very Call of Cthulhu-esque. Arrow Runner pops up. I love that Travis wanted to sacrifice everyone except Laura. Yeah, that's very true. I think he was outright trying to sacrifice Sam farther than just the final fight.
Right. Well, he kept trying to kiss Laura.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't poke a bear and expect not to get bitten.
Very true. Oh, Yesenia Hernandez also corrects me. It was season 5, not season 7. So, thank you. But yeah, so they eventually make their way into the cafeteria where they get that confirmation from Ashley via Skype. And it suddenly bursts into an angelic version of Ashley. Very Pike-esque, I thought. No comments, Kat?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was perfect. That was, I mean, she's always just coming in. Of course, it has to be this way with the blind spot and her being away so much, but you know, Matt always has her coming in as this angelic savior of sorts when they most need her. And so for him to kind of play on that in this as well and say, you know, she's an angelic presence to guide you in this moment, I thought that was perfect. And
Absolutely.
I like how he brought him, like her, Matt, and Marisha into the story and still had them involved in it.
Yes, even though they weren't physically there. That was awesome.
Yeah. Good job.
And one thing, you know, I just want to give props to Liam for his vocal work in mimicking Ashley. Obviously, his voice is too different to actually match hers, but he got a lot of her speech mannerisms down.
He got her odysseys down, yeah, 100%. And then he threw in that yeah. At the end, it's a
that was good. But, you know, after that, they make their way back out to the WB Tower, and they have to fight a Lich Conan O'Brien. That had me cracking up. Are you familiar with
I do know who Conan O'Brien is. I don't know him that well.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't too sure about, like, is he someone that isn't liked over there, or what's the story?
It's not that he's not liked. It's that he's a comedian, and to an extent, so are all of the Critical Role cast. And usually when a comedian likes another comedian, they'll take jabs at them in a friendly manner, and I think that's what it was.
Oh, okay.
They respect Conan O'Brien, so they roast him.
They respected and loved him, so they turned him into this mutated Dracolich monster creature.
Of course. But
of course, that makes perfect sense.
I've done the same thing with my D&D games. I've had friends that I've wanted to honor or just have fun with. So I poked fun at them by turning them into monsters in my campaign.
I'm gonna have to try that then myself.
Just make sure it's a good friend that will understand that it is meant in a good-natured joke way.
Sure. Okay. I will.
But yeah, at the end of the one shot, they finally defeat Conan O'Brien, and with Matt and Marisha's help, coming in on that motorcycle, with Matt being the bard and Marisha being a monk. And that was just kick-ass. The fan art, and unfortunately we weren't able to get the permission to show any here. But if you look up the hashtag Critical Role fan art on Twitter, there's some in there. There's also some that got retweeted into that hashtag, and a lot that did not. But there's some good, really good fan art from there.
Yeah. And I mean, he missed the opportunity to say dope for Marisha.
Yes.
But hopefully she forgave him for that.
Yes. Yesenia Hernandez points out he is apparently a terrible video game player. Yes. Conan O'Brien actually had, before Jimmy Kimmel was doing it, Conan O'Brien had a little skit where he tried to play video games and just proved how horrible he was at it. Unlike Jimmy Kimmel, Conan actually praised the YouTubers and such that he had mentioned for being able to take what is normally viewed as a singular hobby, something for a single person by themselves, and turn it into an entertaining medium, I guess you could say. Whereas Jimmy Kimmel just was ragging on people trying to generate views for himself. But yeah, after the one shot, there was a short Q&A. There wasn't a lot of new information that was put out via the Q&A. However, it did come out that Laura apparently knows exactly who Pike likes. So she may find go ahead.
That was interesting. It was kind of indicated that someone else was involved in that conversation as well, I think, from memory. I'm not sure if it was Sam or Taliesin.
I think it was Taliesin, but
Taliesin?
I think it was
and
Taliesin. But he said
he seemed to think that wasn't like a definite.
At the same time, I got the feeling that he wasn't really paying attention during that portion of whatever conversation they were having.
Oh, perhaps.
It was this is not something I need to be knowing, so I'm going to block it from my memory type thing.
Probably.
But
yeah,
Laura is definitely getting, if she hasn't been already. It was Liam, not Taliesin. Thank you, Yesenia Hernandez, correcting us. It's Liam that was in a follow-up conversation. But Laura knew it first, and but if she hasn't already, she probably will soon be just overwhelmed by a bunch of tweets asking her who Pike likes.
Oh God, I hope not.
I hope not too.
She's not going to tell you.
No, she's not. That she has stated specifically that is for Ashley to reveal when Ashley wants to reveal it.
Yes.
So we'll
find out. I'm quite excited for that.
Agreed. And honestly, with the new evidence that has come to light, I think it is Percy.
And I don't. So there we go.
Yes.
This is the deal that's been struck, Akiva. You're on the Percy. I'm on the not Percy. Let's see who wins.
Well, originally I was on Grog, but then she gave the necklace to Percy. So
there was no way it was Grog. Yeah. I was so certain of that, and I'm certain of Percy. I'm gonna stick on this.
Okay.
This is my call.
Oh, and Yesenia following up, I kind of want to see Pike and Vex fight over Percy. Anyone else?
No!
I think the Battle Royale has proven that Pike would take Vex easily. But I don't want to see them fighting over a guy. I don't want to see them fighting over a guy. I really don't. But that brings us to the end of that episode, and moving into this week's episode, with Matt and Marisha being back, and Ashley making a surprise return, and the group finds themselves in the Feywild. I had to laugh, because Keyleth just seemed to be fangirling and at the same time having some sort of contact high from being in the Feywild.
She was in an absolute element, and I think this caught a lot of long-term viewers and critters way off guard, because she's been in such a slump for so long. We're so used to that Keyleth. And this Keyleth was just, it felt like such a sudden shift, such a sudden change, that I think a few people were having trouble dealing with it. And they were like, what is going on? Has she taken something? It's
Well, I mean, one thing to note is the Feywild is the plane of nature.
yeah.
So
This is her place. This is her world.
I wouldn't go that far. She's a very, as I said, I think she's a very big fangirl of the place.
Yeah.
But, with the way she was speaking, her speech patterns and all that is what gave me the thought. And I'm sure Marisha did not intend this. And this is just me reading too much into it. It gave me the thought, oh my god, she's having a contact high.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
100%. It was great, and it reminded me of the Keyleth from the beginning. If you ever go back and watch from episode 1, that is her. That is the real Keyleth. And, through all of the different things that have happened to them over time, her personality has become more dim and more jaded.
Yes.
So I really liked this. I liked the return of the Keyleth that I fell in love with from episode 1.
Yes. That was indeed awesome. But, it didn't stop her from making some poor decisions, as we see as she almost immediately picks a flower in the Feywild.
Yeah, as Yesenia says, the wet willies drove me crazy, you guys, too much for me.
Yes.
I'm with you on that, Yesenia. The wet willies, they were funny, but I think they were just pushed a little too much. But that's okay.
Well, we'll get to that in just a moment.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine. That's fine. But there was something going on there that I'll touch on in just a moment.
Okay.
But yeah, so Keyleth picks a flower, the vine retracts, pulling away, and the flower dies and wilts in her hand. And then a nymph appears while Vex is, up scouting, and Vex sees the movement of the nymph in the water. But then up pops the nymph, completely nude, and we get some more rather interesting fan art from that. Sorry guys, the YouTube community guidelines say I can't show that type of imagery on the screen, so... But yeah, apparently the beauty is so stunning that it blinded Percy. But as you pointed out, Kat, if you want to go ahead and...
Yeah, I bought this from the wiki because I was kind of trying to figure out a bit more about nymphs. I have to say I haven't had a chance to play a nymph yet or really do much with nymphs. But the wiki said that the slightest glance at a nymph's beauty can stun a person, drive them mad, or permanently blind them. It can even kill them.
Yes, I'm going to pull up the nymph entry in the monster manual real quick.
Cool.
And of course, it's not in there like that.
I
Let me see
think the nymph was in 3rd edition?
Yes, I know it was in some of the expanded.
And some expansions. Yeah. It's not a standard.
And it is not in the current 5th edition Prime monster manual. But, as Chris Perkins said, we are getting some additional monster manual entries.
This is gonna be so cool.
So, yes, it'll probably be in there.
So I think in this case, Matt's probably taken a bit of liberty. And I think he took some liberty with the satire too when we get up to that one. Just in what they can do.
Yes. But, it's the Feywild, so who's to say that he's not actually downplaying it, because on their home plane maybe they're more powerful than if they're not.
Sure.
Crit Roll Stats states Nymph isn't in 5th edition. I'm pulling from Pathfinder. So that's actually a really good point. Pathfinder has, like, what, 5 or 6 monster compendiums? So it may very well be that Matt was pulling from the Pathfinder.
Yeah.
Arrow Runner points out that Percy was smart enough to be like, bow now, but wasn't strong enough to look away.
Right.
That's very true. Nymphs are, amazingly beautiful creatures, so it is difficult to look away from them.
And I do like that Percy was the one who was affected, because later on she says, usually I find that the people who fall under this kind of spell deserve it.
Well, Percy himself says, I am not a good man.
He is not, so, little things like that remind us that he's probably got a bit of red in his ledger that just keeps coming back and biting him.
Yep. But,
So I love the scene with Grog and Sam where they have to lure this nymph back out of the water after she's blinded Percy and she's run away.
Yes, and with Sam telling him what to say through the earring.
Yep. And he was just delivering it so well, and then right at the end he's like, and you have a small dick, and I have a small dick. Like, it was...
Yep.
Perfect, so perfect. I was cracking myself laughing. And of course it got the nymph out of the water laughing as well.
Yes. It was so respectful up to that point that even if Travis knew it was coming, Grog never would have had a clue.
Yeah.
So it was played perfectly. But so they talk with the nymph Nala for a little bit, and it is in fact the same nymph that Grog got the nymph heart from. She seemed a little disappointed that it got used.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
I suppose.
I think Grog probably could have, done or put it a little better when he said, "Yeah, we had to use it to get the darkness out of me." But at least Nala was understanding.
Yes.
So as the conversation goes on, they continue talking about where they need to go, trying to find the vestige, and how they can thank the nymph for her help and all that. And she asks for books to read. And I can't help but worry that she's going to take those books underwater. Books don't last underwater.
It was an interesting request. I think when they asked if there was anything that they could bring back for her, it caught Matt a little bit off guard, because he had that kind of chuckle and then a thoughtful moment, which I kind of recognized. I do that same thing where I'm like, stall for time.
Yes.
Look away. Just look away for a moment and stall for time. I love this. I love that she wanted books. Obviously, she's lonely. She can't leave her glade, so she can only, interact with those that come to her glade. And so, yeah, for her to want to read about other places, I thought was beautiful. But I did think that too. Akiva was like, how is she going to protect these books? But I'm sure she'll find a way.
Indeed. So Vex actually hands over the Raven Queen book, which was just awesome, but kinda nerve-wracking at the same time. Because nymphs, being, fey creatures, are all about life. Here's a book about a goddess of death.
Oh, that's true. Oh. Well, it's good to go outside your comfort zones.
True. Very true. So we'll see
I
how
thought
that turns out.
It was a great move by Vex.
It was. It was.
She was so attached to that book. I know it meant a lot to her. She paid a lot of money for it, which she doesn't do.
Yeah, she paid full price for it.
Yes, that's not heard of in Vex's world. And then she just gave it as a gift, and I thought that one moment it was just so beautiful.
Indeed. But they finally get the information on where they need to go, and was it Shade Lurk Bog? Or Mirelurk Bog? I can't remember which. Games are overlapping in my head.
Either, and I haven't actually written it down. It was I have Glade written here. I don't know why I've done that.
The Glade is actually where they popped in at.
Okay. I'm not sure what the name of the place is that they have to go to. I know it's dark and gross and
yes,
has an evil tree in it.
Indeed, but they have to travel 2 days duskward, which is an interesting point of phrasing.
Yes, and which, like Chinese whispers, became very confusing halfway through the session when it just kept getting changed to 2 weeks, ways of the dusk, to dusk with... Wait, what?
Yes.
And so confused.
And many thanks to Yesenia Hernandez, Crit Roll Stats, and Arrow Runner. It is Shade Merc Bog.
When you have those 3 in your chat...
Yes, we are well supported, and thank you so much for helping us while we're going through this. Yeah, so 2 days travel duskward. This caught me a little off guard.
Okay.
And I was kicking myself afterwards, because it should have been, if not obvious, expected, because direction and time are 2 things in the Feywild that you can never be sure of. And by direction, I mean north, east, south, and west. Not necessarily, duskward, dawnward, and that sort of thing. Those are pretty well set, but when it comes to north, east, south, and west, compasses don't work in the Feywild.
Right. It's like you're in the middle of the Bermuda Triangle.
Robert Warden pops up, saying it was Shade Lurk with an L. I heard it as Shade Merc with an M. So I'll send a tweet after we get done here. I'll send a tweet to Matt to get confirmation.
I'm sure there's many things lurking in the shade.
Indeed.
So that's close.
Yes. So as they're leaving, Nala gives Percy bark skin in order to, bolster him. And this is where the Wet Willy battle ensues.
Yes.
It started out with Keyleth trying to give Percy a Wet Willy, and of course Percy has the gloves of arrow deflection on.
Right.
So he just reached out and snatched her hand, and while his hand was busy, Vax. I was going to say Liam, and I'm like, no, Liam was the player, not the character. Vax ends up giving him a Wet Willy instead. Um, and I think what was going on was Marisha was trying to make a joke at Percy slash Talison's expense, and Percy didn't want it to happen, and she just kept trying to make that joke, and Liam was like, just get it over with and let's move on. So he went with it.
Am I the only one who finds wet willies just disgusting?
Everybody finds wet willies disgusting.
Not receiving them, but to like give them, because you're sticking your finger into somebody's ear.
Well, there are dirtier places on the human body.
I'm sure there are.
Your hands.
That's dirty enough, thank you, Akiva. That level of dirty is enough. I never got the wet willy thing.
It's more along the lines of allowing yourself to get a laugh at the other person's discomfort.
Oh, I know. It's just, yeah. But yeah. It is Yesenia. It's so gross.
Yesenia also says it just got excessive and the rest of the group was trying to move on. Vex called Trinket away several times since Percy was on Trinket as the seeing eye bear. And Grog and Scanlan kept trying to move on. And as I said, it was one of those things, Marisha really wanted this joke to go off and just kept getting denied. So Liam stepped in to help her so it could just be finished. And they could move on. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to get a joke in. And there's nothing wrong with trying repeatedly to get a joke in. But it just... It messed with the pacing a bit.
Yeah.
And, I can't really blame Marisha. It would have been funny if she had gotten it right off.
I think it's very Keyleth. Like, she's very kid-like.
Very much so.
In everything that she does. And a kid... when you have like a little kid around and they really want to do something like tickle you or play hide and seek with you or do something like a joke on you, that the kid, and I don't know, and all the kids I've spent time with, if you say not right now, they just keep at it, right? They keep trying to get you to do it. So I kind of see Keyleth as like a big kid in that respect.
Absolutely. It's it's one of those things where you have to distract them or let them finish out what they're trying to do in order to get them to move on.
Yes.
And again, there's a lot of people that I was seeing in both the GNS chat, and there were a few in the Critter D&D chat. Not many, but a few that were like, "Oh, just move on already." Obviously, I'm paraphrasing. But, guys, remember, this is their game. Yeah. Let them decide when to move on. But, yeah. So, as they continue on, Keyleth, Druid crafts some moss and such to make the bark skin more regal in appearance.
That was cute.
It was really cool. I like that. But as they're going, they notice that the light doesn't seem to change at all. It's still dusk. So, that's one of the things I was saying, that time and direction are all sort of screwy in the Feywild. They may, just because they saw the dusk just sitting there, honestly, even by now, they could have already spent several hundred years in the Feywild and they wouldn't know. Or they could be going backwards in time and they wouldn't know.
Wouldn't that be funny?
That would be kind of scary.
I doubt Matt's gonna do that to them, but it's the risk that you take when you go to places like this.
I need to respond to something in the chat. I don't want to, so just give me one moment.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I don't have Kalia here to like fill
I'm sorry.
conversation with. No, usually when you start typing, Kalia and I will like start talking.
I'm sorry.
She's not here. I'll just talk to myself. So, that time in the grass.
So yeah,
When it was walking along. No, I don't know. I suck at this.
but yeah,
Suck at the log.
there we go. So yeah, they finally get out of the forest and into the grass. After a short discussion on, well, when do we stop to rest? Whenever we get tired.
Yep. That's 100% it. It leads to a beautiful scene with Trinket. But Bex starts saying to Keyleth, can you teach me how to speak to animals? And there was a little bit of confusion there, but apparently she'd been saving a slot that she could learn this spell. And I don't know how long she's been sitting on this slot for.
Yes.
Where she's been thinking, oh, maybe I could. Maybe I should. But I think she's put a bit of thought into it. And I love how she got Keyleth to teach her. And Keyleth did this really funny scene where she was like a bear and she started walking around and sniffing people like a bear. And Vex is like, I'm just going to let her do that for a bit. Just let her do her thing. But that moment when she started speaking to Trinket,
that was moving for me.
oh, wasn't that just, it was like, we had been waiting for something like that to happen for so long. And now she can actually communicate with this creature that she just loves. That's her world. And I love that. I love that she can now talk to Trinket. And we got his viewpoints on a few things, including how it feels for him to stay in the necklace.
Yes.
And I'm really glad that conversation took place.
Indeed. And, one thing that kind of confuses me, when they first got the necklace, in the description it said no time passes for the individual inside.
Right.
But Matt says that whoever's inside can see out. So I think the wording on that needs to be changed just a little, or needs to be clarified a little. I think what he meant when he said no time passes, no aging occurs.
Yes. Yes, I think that's definitely what he meant by it, because the wolf that was trapped in there for a very long time.
Yes.
And still was alive. It kind of makes me sad, though, to think about that, because that means that the wolf was sitting in that gem, in that cold, dark place, alone.
Yeah.
For a very long time.
Yes. And honestly, that made me sad.
Yeah. That made me very sad.
But the whole conversation, I'm one of those individuals, I tend to wear my heart on my sleeve. So when something happens to somebody that doesn't understand the situation, or doesn't understand what's going on, or more precisely, can't understand the situation, and is doing something blindly because they were told to, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
yeah, it breaks my heart when I realize stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, um, but yeah, so, they continue on and, eventually realize that they're being followed. Vex realized as they were getting into the thinner parts of the forest that they were being followed, but at this point, they actually catch the satyr that's following them. And forgive me if I am pronouncing this wrong. According to Matt, it was Garmelie.
I think that was it. That's what I heard.
So, yes. And Vex captured him in a rather interesting manner.
Yeah, I really love how Matt explained that he was drawing something in his book and kind of jumping up out of the grass and then, landing on the ground and quickly scribbling in his book. And the visual image for that was just so adorable.
Indeed.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God. Joshua, forgive me for not pronouncing your last name. Just imagine one of the party members stuck in the necklace and there's a TPK.
Yeah, we've had that before. No. Don't say things like that.
Joshua, go sit in the corner and think about what you just said.
A few people have brought that up, that could one day possibly happen, and it's very true. It's a very Superman moment, where they put them in the glass and they're kind of banging on the glass trying to get out, and
well, here's the thing.
That would break my heart.
So, if I remember,
they'd be aware.
Yeah, if I remember the description correctly, there's a save that can be made to prevent yourself from being put in the necklace. Correct. Would that save apply to be getting out? And yes, it was Arrow Runner that had said pretty much the same thing for the dragon fight. So you should still be in the corner, Arrow Runner. Kidding, of course.
you and Joshua can go sit in a corner together. That's interesting.
It was Joshua Shimoleski. Thank you for clarifying your last name. And there's no reason for you to apologize. It's my fault for not having the linguistic talents to attempt the name properly and give it the due respect. So don't apologize. Your name is your name.
Yeah, so I think technically no. I don't think you would be able to save.
Save to get out?
I don't think so, but I mean, if that ever happens, it's Matt's game. He might be able to wreck on it a little bit, but
I mean,
anyways, it's not going to happen, so.
Very true, but by the same token, nobody has tried to get out, so.
True. Very true.
But the drawings, after Vex captures Garmelie by catching him by the arm and flying up into the air with him, she brings him back to the group and they look at his book and some well executed caricatures.
It's like Matt's seen this kind of art before, with the way that he described it.
Well, I mean...
Matt, what kind of art are you looking at to be so well versed?
Well, it's actually interesting because, I do sketching in my spare time, which really there isn't a lot of. But when I was in high school, when I had a lot more time, I was doing those sort of sketching.
Oh, oh
So,
my gosh.
It makes sense. A teenager does that. And of course, if they're a social type person, they're going to show the art around. So.
Of course.
And yes, Arrow Runner. The question of what you drawing is definitely an artist's nightmare.
Looking over his shoulder and it's not quite finished yet. Yeah, that was cute when she was kind of like leaning on her broom and came down behind him. Yeah, very cute.
Yes. So, eventually they, take him into the mansion as they try to decide what to do with him. And Grog tries to be a little sociable and shares some of his ale. And
Mealy gets a bit sloshy.
just a bit. He's a bit of a lush. But, going from classic fairy tales, that's what satyrs did. They ate, they drank heavily.
Yep.
And they had fun with nymphs.
Which is why I thought he'd have a higher constitution, personally, but maybe he doesn't get a lot of booze in the grass.
Well, another thing to remember is they don't have a lot of patience. So they're not going to be brewing their own. They may have some simple wines, but
this is grog. This is good stuff.
Yes, very much so. But, eventually, they talk with him, and they start, for lack of a better term, trying to bargain with him to get him to take them to the Shade Murk or Shade Lurk bog.
Yeah.
And some rather interesting hijinks ensues, but eventually they come to an agreement, and Vex and Vax shake hands with him, and there's a shudder down their back.
Yep. That's never a good thing.
Well,
Your GM says you feel a shudder down your back.
It can be a good thing. In this case, as long as they stick to the deal, it's a good thing.
Right.
But the deal did include a way for Vox Machina to get out of it scot-free. All they have to do is decide that whatever it was that Garmelie once stolen is not worth it.
Now, was that actually said?
Garmelie himself said it, and that was part of the deal.
Okay.
So, if Matt does not follow through with that, I think at least Vex and Vax are really going to throw hissy fits about it.
Of course. Yes. Wording is key.
Yes. But, they made that deal based on Percy saying, you know what, it's a good deal, go for it. So they make the deal, they go on to bed, and as they're starting to go to sleep, Percy realizes that he was charmed. So he gets up.
Which is kind of funny because Matt actually got up and ran behind Percy's table and gave him a whisper and made him roll for something. Now, I think maybe metagaming just a little bit. Vex thought that he knew something that the rest of them didn't know. And so when he's sitting there going, "This is a good deal, guys. You know, you should do this. We're gonna make a deal with somebody at some point. It's okay." Vex, or maybe Laura, was probably thinking, "Okay, he knows something we don't. He's not gonna screw us."
Ashley started.
No, but Vex was the one who was like, "Okay, I trust you." But Ashley was like, "I don't trust you. This is off. Something's wrong. Can I roll?" And then Liam as well is like, "All right, let's roll."
Now I will say,
because this is odd.
I will say Matt called them out on it, but Ashley did give solid reasoning.
He did. He was worried that they weren't metagaming, and that was a fair call.
Yes.
But Percy was acting.
Yeah, and Ashley said straight up, even if it does sound reasonable, this is Percy we're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah, she was remembering, he made a deal with Orthax. A demon. So if anyone should be questioning Percy, it is in fact Pike that should be doing so.
True. Yeah, so Vax rolled a 15. Usually a 15 is pretty good, but it wasn't good enough for Matt on this. Yep. They didn't pick up that there was anything off with Percy, and they made the deal.
Yesenia Hernandez brings up Ashley failed because she metagamed.
Yeah, see, I don't think she did though.
I don't feel like she did, because she knows that Percy made a deal with Orthax, and anytime Percy wants to make a deal, she questions it. She questioned it when they were dealing with the Skull.
But he was also just really like, "I don't want to know any details. Let's just do this. Let's just make this deal."
Yeah.
I kind of feel like, okay, like Percy is someone who does jump into bad situations. We've seen it happen on a number of occasions, but I don't know. Even for me, like, I was sitting there going, "This is not Percy." Like, so
Now, I have to admit that, being, for lack of a better term, a veteran player, somebody who's played for, over 20 years now, I would have approached it as, "Hey, Matt, I want to make an insight check. Here's why. He made a deal with a demon. He wanted to make a deal with a skull that we didn't have enough information about. Plus, he's saying that this is a good deal when we don't have all of the information." That probably would have, told Matt, okay, this is a logical question to make. And I think she did, to a certain extent, say that. I don't think she said it in a way that Matt picked up on that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
It's tough. It's tough to.
Yes. But, as far as the insight check, an insight of 15 for most situations,
that's pretty good.
Is pretty good. But considering Percy rolled like a 17 in order to try to avoid being charmed, and it still went through, I think that, if I had to make a guess, and Matt was not penalizing them, just giving, for lack of a better term, giving Matt the benefit of the doubt that he was not penalizing them for metagaming, I personally would have set the DC at either the DC for the charm spell or the failed save. Either one. And both of those were higher.
Yes.
So, either way, in my eyes, the fail was valid, but by the same token, I'm hoping it was not because of presumed metagaming. But they agree to steal some items from Singorn for Garmelie, and then Garmelie passes out. Now, earlier in the evening, Percy had fixed Garmelie's ocarina. And Pike, not trusting Garmelie, goes ahead and takes the ocarina.
Yup. Out of all the people there, she was the only one to think probably should take the musical device of the satyr. Satire?
Satyr.
Satyr. Oh, you guys say satyr. We call him satire. Satyr. Alright.
Well, it's a dialect thing, that's all. Satyr.
Yeah.
All the same thing.
Satyr. Satire. Yeah, so I just thought it was kind of funny that this good little religious chick.
Here's the thing, though. You know, we were just talking about metagaming, and here I kind of go, why did she take it?
Yes.
Pike has no frame of reference for a satyr. At least none that we've been given. Now, again, it's their game. Maybe satyrs are part of fairy tales that everybody knows, just like here in our world. But it just kind of confused me as to why she would take the ocarina.
Yeah, I mean, she definitely could have given a lot of reasons for it. Maybe she took it because she felt like there was something funny about him and she wanted to have something over him. Maybe she took it because she was curious as to what it was. We're not too sure. I definitely would have asked for a reason. I would have been like, oh, and why are you doing that? You know, just general conversation. That's all you have to do, is just to have players kind of talk out their thoughts a bit more, because sometimes they just say, I'm going to do this. So it's kind of up to the DM to go, but why? But that didn't really happen in this circumstance, so who knows? Who knows what her thinking was? I hope that it's not because she researched or she knows something about them.
Yep.
And maybe it was one of the other reasons. I hope.
Well, we'll find out what comes of that, though. But, you know, they go on to bed. Percy talks first to Scanlan, who is up reading his charisma book. And Scanlan had a really nice line there. I'll let you, since they are your notes.
This is so cute. Any conversation with Scanlan, aka Sam, is just amazing. And I have to apologize to my throat's very sore today, so if my voice is sounding croaky, that's why. I have to run this, so that's going to be interesting. Any scene with Scanlan is just so awesome. And so Percy, after he realizes he's been charmed, goes to find some people to talk to. Obviously he's a bit peeved and wants to talk it through, and finds Scanlan reading his book and tells him of what's happened. And Scanlan's like, well, what if we just kill him? And he's like, could we be haunted or anything? He's like, well, maybe. And he's like, I don't want to be haunted. That's for you and Vax. No baggage, man. No baggage.
Yes.
It was I don't want to be haunted. That's for you and Vax. And Vax, like, Liam's face was just like, hey. But it's so true. Those two are just always so heavy with baggage. And here's Scanlan, he's like, oh no, man, I'm not doing that.
Yep. So then after that, he goes to speak with Vex. And that was... I tell you, the ships are going crazy after this episode. I mean, they're going crazy after every episode, but
Oh gosh.
I
So I cried in this scene.
you did.
I don't know how Laura does it, but the moment she tears up, that girl, I can't stand to see her upset. She just has this truth about her, and just this honesty in the emotions that she displays. And she was crying in this scene. She was so upset, and she was trying to hide it. And yeah, I was watching her, and I think so many people wanted to give her a hug.
Yes.
That she kind of allowed herself to go to that place to deliver that scene to us was very lovely. She would have had to have put herself into some kind of a position mentally and emotionally to be able to deliver that scene like that. And yeah, thank you so much, Laura,
Yes.
for your amazing acting. Why you're not an actress, I don't know. But you're so good. And that scene broke me. It really broke me. But I love that we finally got this scene with Percy and Vex.
See, it's scenes like this between the two of them that just I don't know which ship I'm on anymore. I'm on all of them. You know
You've got to be. I think Arrow said that she's like on this little boat that goes from one ship to another. Like, you can join us. You can jump into this boat with us.
Yes. Of course, Arrow Runner and I are both of the same mind. Just make it a poly group, and we're all good.
My lord, like the whole party.
Well, not the whole party. The twincest thing, I kind of draw. No. No. But, everything but that. Go for it. But after that, Percy goes on to bed. They all sleep, and Pike gets up very early and talks to Garmelie and gets him to draw the art that you guys are seeing.
Oh my gosh, someone drew it.
Yes, someone drew it. And hold on, I gotta get that. Now, for those of you that are watching this on Monday, there is an annotation on exactly who it is. There it is. This was done. This piece was done by Andy Lee at Call of the Deep.
The details are fantastic. Well done.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And Pike was like, make it just as gross as possible. And Scanlan comes out looking normal.
Yeah. Oh, that was well done by Matt. Gosh,
Yes.
they put him on the spot so much, don't they? Because even at the end, she said, "I just wanted you to explain it." Like,
Yes.
she's. I just wanted to put you on the spot and see what you came up with, and he delivers. He never lets down.
So, but then she goes back up to her room and then comes back down with everybody. And she had put this picture up over the mantle. And they have their breakfast discussion on where they're going and all of that, and they have their own comments on the picture. I just looking at this picture, I just realized something.
What?
How did Garmelie know about the Sundry?
I don't think it was the Sundry. I think it was just a tree.
Matt said the Sundry. Matt's exact phrasing was the
Did he?
Sundry. Yes, he said with the Sundry pushing her off. Matt was the one who said that.
Oh, oops.
Matt,
Or was it an oops?
I don't think it was an oops. Well, I think it was.
He
It was,
he
but
does
it
an
wasn't.
oops.
It
Matt
wasn't.
does an oops.
Well, he does, but not in ways that we expect. I don't think he meant to let this slip. But as Joshua Schmelt, I just screwed up his name. Sorry, Joshua. But as Joshua said earlier in the chat, could he be an archfey? If he's an archfey, then he would know about the Sundry.
Oh. Oh, we're thinking Gamili's something else.
No.
Okay.
I think he is Fey because he lives in the Feywild.
Oh yeah, no, but
As
he's
an
something
archfey.
more than just a little jokester.
Yep.
Drawing pictures as something more. Oh wow. That's cool. We're gonna have to really listen.
Yeah. We'll yeah. But yeah, at breakfast, everyone comes down. They comment on the art, and it's eventually decided to just leave it up on the mantle so they can enjoy it later. Have a memento of coming into the Feywild. And then while they're eating, Pike pulls out the ocarina and starts playing Hot Cross Buns on it.
Yep.
And Garmelie's... the way it comes about, it's just hilarious because Matt forgot that Pike had taken it. So Garmelie, brings up his hands, and Ashley calls him out by saying, "What are you doing with your hands?"
Yeah. I say he does an oops, and then we talk about 2 seconds later he does oops.
Yeah. But like I said, it's not often that he does so, and it's usually not in ways we expect.
Yes, that's true.
So, but yeah, Pike plays some Hot Cross Buns, and at the end of breakfast, she gives the ocarina to Scanlan, and Scanlan's like, "Why? You played very well." And Pike just goes, "Don't lie to me. Come on now."
Yeah, that's a good move. She obviously knows she's not going to be there next week, so
Yeah.
she needs to pass it on to somebody else. As Joshua said too, there was a hashtag No Mercy Percy moment, which we all love, where he kind of got his own back a little bit by scaring
the crap out of Garmelie.
We think that he scared the crap out of Gamili. I don't know. If he knows everything, he might have just been putting it on, but he seems scared.
If he knows everything about Vox Machina,
maybe that's why he was scared.
He is scared.
He is scared. Maybe.
Because don't forget, Percy made a deal with Orthax, a greater demon, and got out of it through brute force.
Very true.
So, Becca Music 321 in the chat says he just turned 360. I was cracking up. Absolutely, he went to bed all jovial, got a little pissed that when he figured out he had been charmed, And then he comes back the next morning, and the shadow was living well within him.
Yep.
So,
So we finally finished breakfast, and we head to Singorn.
and this has me shaking in my boots almost, not quite, but almost as much as Grog and Kevdak.
Really?
Yes, they get to Singorn, and of course the guards are up on the walls with arrows, telling them to stop, identify themselves, usual guard stuff. And if I'm not mistaken,
I am so sorry, guys. It's
it's
my
okay,
dog.
it happens. And I'm sure you guys heard my cat clawing up my chair earlier in the stream. But if I'm not mistaken, that was their half sister. That was the head of the guards.
Their half sister? I think it was just somebody who was in the normal guard when they were growing up.
And had been elevated?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they knew of her, but I don't think they were that close. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Just one
No,
moment.
it's okay. It's okay. Life happens.
Oh, I have a husband who could be stopping this, and he's...
So, well, I will say this is going to be rather interesting. We did find out the twins' last name, and it started with a V, and I can't remember it off the top of my head. Did I lose Cat? Am I here all alone?
I'm back.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay.
I just had to deal with the dog. All right.
No, that's quite all right. I didn't know you had left, and I got scared. I was all alone.
I'm sorry. I did leave you alone for a moment. See, those monologues suck, don't they?
Yes, they do. But no, as I was saying, I have a bad feeling about this because they're going to have to deal with their dad, their half sister, any siblings that were born after they left.
Yes.
And Josh again comes to my rescue. It's revealed that the last name of the twins, whether they use it or not, being up to them, is Vasar.
Correct. Yes, Vasar.
So
They've
Vax
never used
and
it
Vex
before.
Vasar. Go ahead.
Never used it before, so we'll have to see.
Well, at one point they actually straight up said we have no last name. So I know Keyless had. I believe it was in response when somebody had asked what Keyless' last name was, and she said she had none. And the twins were like, "Yeah, neither do we." So
There you go. Yes, it'll be interesting next episode. Hopefully, we get to meet their father. Meet the guy that we've heard so much about, the infamous dad.
yes, this is. Oh, I'm scared for them.
Yeah.
So moving into wrapping things up. We didn't get really to talk too much about the one shot. Liam had said that during the Q&A that it was something that he was looking forward to doing, but he expected it to be like 6 months down the road.
Yes.
What did you think?
I was surprised at how well he did, to be honest. I was a little concerned for him, and I don't know why. I really shouldn't have been, in hindsight, because, I mean, he's an actor. He does this for a living, but I know how stressful it can be when you're first like doing your first real DM experience, and to do that in front of like 18 to 20,000 people. I was just like, wow, that's crazy. But he did so well.
Indeed. But, during the Q&A, Taliesin also mentioned that he'd be interested in doing a one-shot, possibly of Vampire the Masquerade.
I so want to see this.
I was a huge fan of Vampire the Masquerade myself. Both tabletop and the live action.
Okay.
Yes, I LARPed.
That's cool. I respect people who laugh because I think it's like taking it to the next level, isn't it?
Exactly. I mean, honestly, instead of improvising around a table, you're improvising at a location.
Yeah.
So, but I would, the question was brought up if the system was easier or harder. It's easier in that everything has, or every dice roll has a set. This is a success. This is a fail. You roll d10s, and 6 or higher is a success. If you roll a 10, it counts as 2 successes. The difficulty comes from how many successes you need. So, like, in order to punch someone, you need to have 3 successes.
I see.
Yep. The confusion comes in. I have like enough vampiric skills that I can roll 30 frickin' dice.
Oh, okay.
Not an exaggeration. I once played a character that rolled 30 dice for a punch. I mean, granted, it was
crazy.
It was boosted and all this other stuff, but yeah, it can get that high. So, but it'll be interesting to see.
Yes.
So, moving into this week's DM's Corner, I wanted to touch on madness because it was brought up in a question to Jeremy Crawford on the on the indefinite madness was the question specifically, but I thought we'd talk a little bit about madness in general. Madness effects in D&D come in 3 types. You have a short-term madness, which lasts 1d10 minutes, a long-term madness, which is 1d10 times 10 hours, and then the indefinite, which lasts, it becomes a permanent flaw until it is cured, either through greater restoration in some cases, or other quests to address it, or something along those lines. So I wanted to touch on, well, just for a reference, you guys can see the tables on page 259 and 260 of the Dungeon Master Guide. But I wanted to touch more, not on the madness itself, but when it's appropriate to use madness.
Right.
So I'll let you start with that question. When do you think it is appropriate to use madness?
When is it appropriate to use madness? Madness isn't something that's actually used a lot in games, to be honest. At least none of the games that I've really played. Probably Curse of Strahd. Stuff like this.
Yeah. Go ahead.
But I mean, it I mean, you can use it at any point that it fits the narrative. I mean, that kind of goes hand in hand with anything in relation to, you know, blindness, any kind of effect that you want to put on another player. So long as it fits the narrative and makes sense for the narrative, you can apply it.
Indeed. The Dungeon Master's Guide straight up says, in a typical campaign, characters are not driven mad by the horrors they face and the carnage they inflict day after day. You're playing heroes, individuals who are expected to, be violent in order to save people. So violence isn't going to do it. But certain spells, such as, as the DMG points out, contact other plane or symbol can cause insanity. Especially because the other planes, especially the plane of chaos, is so alien to our perceptions that we don't know what to make of it, and it drives us insane.
Yes. Yeah, the Abyss or Nine Hells, that is correct, Joshua.
Yes.
Torture scenes and things like that, I mean...
It really depends.
It depends.
Yeah, it really depends on the torture. Yeah. I owe you a Coke.
Okay. I'll have to do that long distance over oceans. So yeah, it really depends. I mean, sometimes players can even choose.
Yeah.
You know, they might pull their DM aside and say, hey, look, that whatever happened, that crazy torture scene, let's say, just completely screwed me up, and I think my character's going a little off kilter. And maybe you can work that into the story even, but it would have to take a bit. Indeed.
Just try not to overuse it if you want to include it into your campaign. That's my advice.
I would agree with that.
Because if you start piling on madness in a game, it loses its effectiveness. But if used properly, you can take a horror setting like Curse of Strahd or what was it, Death House, or Ravenloft, the Abyss, the Nine Hells, the Plains of Chaos, even the Feywild. Honestly, if you use it effectively, it really enhances the game.
Yep.
So. But that will bring this episode of Gilmore's Glorious Gossip to a close. Thank you all for joining us. If you enjoyed the episode, click that like button and subscribe to catch us each and every week. Send in any of your D&D or tabletop questions in general to us using the hashtag DM's Corner. That's DMS Corner, CORNER. If you want to submit art, please contact us via Twitter. You can use our official Twitter at Gilmore_gossip. Or you can contact us directly. I'm at Akiva David, AKIVADAPHYDD.
And I am Kitten Smitten G, KITTENSMITTENG on Twitter.
We hope you enjoyed, and until next week, kick back, relax, and enjoy your games.
May all your hits be crits, and have a nat 20 day.
Thank you, Kate. You guys have a great night.
Bye, guys.